Good afternoon, guys. Today we are going to talk about a question that I was asked to talk about, which is having babies in your 40s. So I am actually in my room and my almost 2-year-old daughter is sleeping on my lap. So it's maybe an odd angle and I'm just kind of sitting here going to chat with you guys. We are going to go over a lot of things, but like normal, it will probably be more rambly about everything rather than like a pinpoint of this is what to do, A, B, C. And it's going to go over things like basically like parenting, how it's different in your 40s versus when you're younger, pregnancy, how is it like as far as the pregnancy itself, in your 40s versus younger. Also, different things that maybe doctors might look at in pregnancy. A lot of people, I believe, were looking for things like tips and tricks maybe for either getting pregnant or sustaining a pregnancy and what I do differently. Just stuff like that. So I am Mama Bear to many. I am mom to 14 children, and 12 of my children still live here at home with us. And I am pregnant. I'm actually 12 weeks and 4 days. No, 5 days. I was at the doctor's yesterday. And so I had they do like these. It's really kind of interesting when you have been pregnant from like so many times. They do things differently when you haven't been there for a while. Most my other deliveries that I've had have been home births. The past, let me see, the past six, I believe, were home births. I'd have to go back and count, but my brain's not thinking that far ahead or behind or whatever it might be. Anyhow, so I am actually going into an office and seeing a midwife. Yesterday was really like my first appointment. The way that they do it is they have you have an ultrasound first, and then you have a over the phone appointment, and then you have a real appointment after that with the midwife. So my real appointment was yesterday with the midwife. So I was really excited because I'm actually over that 12-week mark, which is kind of, if you know, when you're pregnant, like after you get past the 12 weeks, your chances of miscarriage diminish by a lot. So I think that I'll start off talking about pregnancy in my 40s and what changed and what I thought, and just things I've had to do differently. I believe that we were created to like have children. Like a woman's body is created in a specific way. God designed it in a specific way, a beautiful way to carry and nurture children. So I just want, first and foremost, I want my body to be working to its best in order to do that. So normally went beforehand, that looked like a fairly decent diet. But our diet has changed over the years, and I'll go on to explain that a little bit. So when I turned 39, I had sweet pea when I was 39. And then I ended up having a miscarriage on Sweet Pea's first birthday. I actually miscarried a baby, and the miscarriage went well. I miscarried at about 10 weeks. No, I miscarried at 8 weeks with that baby. But the miscarriage went well. I didn't have any hemorrhaging. I didn't need to go to the doctor. I just miscarried at home. And then, let me see. And then I got pregnant again fairly soon after. And, so that was November. And then I had a miscarriage actually on my son's birthday, which was February 22nd. And that was a really, really hard miscarriage. So I had gone into the same doctor's office that I had been in, and I had gone to that doctor's because I wanted to get an ultrasound and that type of stuff. At that point, they were kind of working with my at-home midwife, so it was easier for me to just do that. So I went in there and I had a ultrasound, and there was like nothing left. But the sac was really big, like exceedingly big for the amount of pregnancy that I was. So at 10 weeks, I looked more like almost 16 weeks. So they weren't quite sure. They didn't really mention either, and I looked it up after. Most likely it could have been that I was carrying twins and miscarried the twins, or there's other things that there could have been extra fluid in the sac or different things like that. Anyway, I had a really, really, really hard, bad hemorrhage. And I could get into like the huge story of that. But in the end, I ended up getting life flighted to the city hospital, and had a DNC. That was a very difficult miscarriage. It was kind of, I should have had a blood transfusion, and I didn't because of some scenarios that had been going on around everything. But I needed iron infusions for over 6 months after that. And so we were just, honestly, I didn't feel well at all, at least for the first 3 months. And I was struggling even just like day-to-day type stuff. So that was just a really hard miscarriage for me. And my husband actually, right as I had my husband, I went in for my ultrasound and found out that the baby wasn't there. And my husband had a scheduled hernia surgery like the day after. So my husband was actually like laid up the same time that I was during this period of time. It was like a really hard time for our family because we also were trying to take care of my son Bobby, who needed our care 100%. And we don't have any help. And so that was really difficult. We had told people before that we never, like, our kids don't take care of our kids toileting. Like, our son was disabled and we took care of his toileting, but our children never took care of that. We do not feel like that was ever a place that a child should be doing. So, like gluten-free brownie thing. It's pretty good. So let me see, that was February 22nd. I got pregnant again in July. And then I went to the same doctor's office and found out that that baby didn't have a heartbeat either. And I elected, at that point, there was like nothing in the sac. There wasn't like an actual like baby in that sac. It was all like at the bottom of the sac. If you've ever had a miscarriage, you'll know like the difference. There's a difference between like having this sac and just you can't see the baby's heartbeat, and like you can't actually see like anything in the sac besides like stuff at the very bottom. And that's kind of where we're at. So I elected to do a DNC at that point just because my past experience with that hemorrhage was just so soon and so traumatic. And I needed to be there for my kids, and I needed to be there for my disabled son. And yeah, so I just decided that it was best if I did that. So I did that. And at that same time, I was praying to the Lord that if I wasn't going to have any more children, and that's kind of how I felt like it was going to be. Okay, I'm over 40. If I'm not going to have any more children, Lord, can you please just like work on my heart so I don't desire children the way that I do so like fervently want children and just desire to like love another child. If you could just take that away from me. And so I was kind of like in this place that I was open to God's will for my life, and that's how it's been. I think it's not about having a bunch of children, it's about like surrendering to the Lord. And so I was just in this place. And then also, at the same time, like if I was praying, if you do desire for me to know information or anything, please just make that available to me. And so I went and I had this DNC, and they do not do any testing until you've had 3 back-to-back miscarriages. So after that, my husband and I both went to the doctors just to see if there was something going on with one of us that was making me have the miscarriages. So we both had the testing done, and there was nothing that was wrong. Everything looked fine. My ovaries looked fine. Everything looked fine at that time. So we were like, okay, well, let's just obviously like leave it in the Lord's hands and see how things are. During that same time, I kind of started focusing on my nutrition, but there was also some other like things going on in our household. So we were looking at some different nutrition things. And as well as looking at like natural supplements or anything like that that might be helpful to sustain a pregnancy. Or yeah, like it wasn't about like getting pregnant. It was about if I got pregnant, I wanted my body to be the healthiest that it could be in order to carry the baby. So, during that time, someone had also suggested that I read a book called It Starts with an Egg. And honestly, I heard the name of the book and I was like, that is the stupidest name for the book. Like, duh. But I went and I got the book. I actually interlibrary loaned it at first because you guys know I'm cheap. So I interlibrary loaned the book, and then I realized it had enough information in it that I wanted to get it for myself. So the book is about so much. It's hard to like explain. Some of it's, or a lot of it is for like people who are getting ready for like an IVF treatment. But it goes all about different chemicals, and it's like chemicals in your household that can change your hormones, chemicals in your food that can change your hormones, all those types of things. So there's like a huge scope of stuff that this book goes into. And also in this book, it was talking about miscarriage and different things for miscarriage. So I decided to like make my own protocol as far as supplements go, considering what I had gone through, the type of miscarriage, weeks of miscarriage. During this time also, the midwife that I had told me that if I'm not having early miscarriages, like in 6 weeks or less, then my progesterone is probably fine. That she would be fine supplementing me with progesterone, but that if you have early miscarriages, that's usually the cause. But if you are further along when you miscarry, that's usually not the case. So I started using some supplements. At first, I can't remember all the supplements I used. I used a lot of supplements the first couple months. And I also needed to understand like how your eggs are. So I did not know that the eggs that you are making today will be released 3 months from now. So the foods that you eat today and the things that you do today will influence your egg quality 3 months from now. And I think we're all told that egg quality cannot be changed, that you have your eggs since you're inside your mother's womb. And the truth is that you can, but you can affect like the blood flow or the oxygen flow to those eggs that you do have. So a good supplement for most people, especially older people, are using CoQ10 ubiquinol, because that helps the flow to your eggs. And I've since spoken to a lot of women over 40, and they use that as just like a standard supplement. There's also other things, like for this baby here, I pretty much only did extra folic acid, and I always take prenatals and the CoQ10 ubiquinol. Those are in a healthy diet. And to me, a healthy diet is a diet that's made with real food. When I was younger, I ate a lot more bread products than I do now. But overall, I think a healthy diet is just real food. Food that you know what the ingredient is, like one ingredient foods or that type of stuff. So a healthy diet. Not a lot of like pastas and filler type foods. Yeah, so I think that just having a good diet. So I ended up getting pregnant then in September. No. Let's see. Had a DNC in September. And I started supplementing like right then. And then, let's see, I had her in October, the beginning of October. So whenever I got pregnant, I think it was near November, December, right? Yeah, December. So that would have been like 3 months. And that would have, yes, it was exactly like 3 months of me taking the pills that I got pregnant. So, and then I had a successful pregnancy, which was really odd after I lost 3 babies, because until the baby was born, I really didn't think that I was going to have a successful birth. And I was so shocked almost that she was here. And it was just almost like, oh, wow, she's really here. And it was almost weird mentally for me, to think that I could be blessed again. And so that's what I have done over the past few years, is just supplementing like that and nothing big. And then when I find out that I'm pregnant, I just use a topical progesterone cream. Like you just rub it into like your arm or whatever. You can get it off of Amazon. And then I take prenatal. I usually take an iron because my iron tends to get low in the beginning of pregnancy. So I usually take a prenatal, folic acid, and iron in the beginning of my pregnancies. So that's what I do, and that's what I've done in my past 3 babies, or Lord willing, my past 2 babies I had successfully. So I was 40. I had my 3-year-old in 2020. Then I had my little Missy in 2022, April 2022. And then this baby will be born in October 24. So, yeah, that's what's different. And I do know, I do actually know quite a few women that have had babies in their 40s, even older than I am now. And it is possible and it is successful. And I don't think that you need to stress out about it. But I do think if you even have the chances of having a possibility of being pregnant, that you should maybe look into what type of supplements that you need to be taking, and also look into your diet. I get a lot of times questions asked, and I've worked with other women, oddly enough. People have asked me, like, how do you have whatever with fertility? Like, how do you have such good fertility and that type of stuff? And it's really not about me. Like, God chooses that. But I think that it's also my job to give my body and give the baby like the best space to be in. So trying to eat as healthy as I can. It's hard, and I've worked with other moms or wannabe moms that have successfully become pregnant when they were having a hard time with infertility. And the main thing was changing their diet and changing their environment. Lots of chemicals that you put in your house are actually toxic. So if you're using a lot of chemicals, that can be an issue. If you're eating out at McDonald's all the time, you have to give your body like what your body needs, because You're going to be taking care of a whole other life. Okay, so that's about getting pregnant. Now, pregnancies. It really depends on the baby. In my 20s, 30s, 40s, like it really depends on my pregnancy, how my pregnancy was, not just necessarily like my age of my pregnancies. I had a really hard pregnancy with one and delivery with one of my daughters. And they thought I was going to lose her like all the time. And I didn't. But it was a really hard pregnancy. Oh, I should have said too, with Rejoice, that's my almost 2-year-old, she, I was pregnant with her and then I started bleeding, like bleeding a lot. And, my husband and I actually had just prayed that, I wouldn't hemorrhage, needing like assistance hemorrhaging. And, we didn't think that we were actually going to like be able to keep her. We had just prayed that, that I might be okay, right? And that I wouldn't have to go through the whole battle of a hemorrhage and stuff like I had before. That was really traumatic emotionally and physically on my body. And that's what we had prayed. And I also had taken, because I had researched during this time a bunch of different things. And I had also taken, as I started to bleed, black haw, which is, I guess, was used for generations as like an anti-spasmodic for the uterus. And within 6 hours, I stopped bleeding, and she's sitting right next to me. So it really is just such a blessing to be able to have these babies. And I think that I can just appreciate them 10 times more as an older mom. I think in the beginning, you kind of want your babies to grow up and like be bigger and do whatever. But then as you get older, you realize like how precious time is and how special each child is. And I feel like I just can appreciate my children, all ages, but more now that I'm older. So it's nice to be able to appreciate my younger children more from a younger age. So yeah, I think it's really a blessing to have babies in your older years, old lady years. And plus it's really cool because, lots of people, they have like empty nest syndrome, but really like when this baby's 20, I'll be 65. So I'll still be like young enough or like, I hope that I'll be young enough. I'll be like active at 65. I am an active person. I think it'd be different if you're not an active person. But I'm a pretty active person. So to be able to have little children at 65, and it feels good too. Like we have some debt that we're looking to pay off, but like we own our house and we can see in a couple years like that finances will be a little more free, and just to be able to do different things with the children. It's really a blessing to have children as you're older, and also just being able to see like your older children with your younger children is it's such a beautiful thing. It really is. I forget what else I was going to talk about. I love babies. I love just, I think also like as you get older, you like this pregnancy, I've allowed myself downtime, and that's made a big difference. And so I haven't actually vomited to the point of really being horrible. There's some pregnancies that I would vomit 6+ times a day. And this has not been one of those pregnancies. Actually, my ones in my 40s have not been that way, although I did vomit a lot more with these two than I have with this baby. But I've also eaten a lot more with this baby too. But I'm not, like, I haven't gained any weight. I just am extremely hungry. It's so ridiculous. Sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like ridiculous because I'm so hungry. But whatever. I just eat good food and we're good. Yeah, so I'm trying to think what else to tell you guys. And I'm not exactly sure what people wanted me to say when they wanted to know about being pregnant in their 40s. I found honestly that I have varicose veins on my legs. I started that when I had 8 pregnancies. But it also, for our family, my grandmother has varicose veins really bad. So I'm not quite sure if it's actually like more genetic or more pregnancy wise. But they were really, really painful for a couple pregnancies after that. But part of that is I needed to sit and put my feet up and be like, okay, if this is painful right now, I need to just put my legs up. Also, if it's bothering me, I take like turmeric and bromelain, I think the name of it is, and curcumin or something like that. I think all of those are like anti-inflammatory type things because it's like inflammation of the vessels. But I feel like the last 3 babies, sorry, the last 3 babies, it's actually been not too bad. And I don't know if it's because I'm allowing myself to sit more or if it's, you know, all the factors, right? But anyway, it's been a lot better. My births for the last 2 babies have been, I don't want to say easy. I can't say easy. Birth is never easy. I guess quick and emotionally like able to handle it. And I think part of that also had to do with having home births because my midwife just believed in me that it didn't matter how far apart my contractions were. Like if I said this baby's coming, she just trusted me. And if I went from like 0 to, you know, gonna push the baby out really quick, like she just trusted that I knew my body. So that's really been a blessing in that way. As far as hemorrhaging, like after pregnancy, after whatever, like I have had a lot less issues at home than I have in the hospital. All of that to say, I don't know what I'm doing for this pregnancy. I don't know if I'm having a home birth or if I'm going to the hospital. The main reason for that is if something went wrong at home, our local hospital is horrible. It's horrible. So I know if something went wrong at home, and that would be the hospital that they would send me to, I know that I probably would die. And that's really factoring in on my decision. If I lived near the city hospital, I'd have a home birth, no big deal. But the fact that if something went wrong, it would go really wrong, even if it wouldn't be like even if it was just something little that could be fixed, it would turn out to like a really big thing, and I want to be here for my kids. So there's things that like I don't like about hospital births. I don't want to have to be induced. I don't I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Like I want to be able to walk around. I want to be able to be in my bed. I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I want to eat. I want to drink if I want to do that. So those things are kind of a factor. I did talk to the midwife yesterday. I expressed some of my concerns. She does seem kind of open to different forms of induction if we're at that point that would be less invasive. So I felt comfortable with that, and she really seemed really nice. And so I think sometimes we have to go with our gut and just like, okay, that person, I don't know. I honestly thought that I was just going to be like, whatever. I am, you know, going to do my 20 weeks here, get my big ultrasound, and then just leave. Now I'm kind of 50-50 on what I want to do because I love my home births. I love being able to do what I can do. There's like an intimacy in like, my husband delivered my babies. Like, you can never like take that away. Like, that is like so beautiful. It's such an intimate moment between like a husband and a wife to be able to like spend that moment together. Um, because you also have to put like a lot of trust in your husband. And so it's different. It's definitely different. So we're just praying over it and seeing where God's going to lead us in this. So we will see. We will keep you updated. Not quite sure, but I felt okay yesterday when I thought I was going to feel completely like, okay, get me out of here. So we will see. I can't think of anything else right now. I should have like made a list of what I wanted to talk about. But if you have any questions about babies after 40, feel free to leave them in the description box below. Most of my friends that I know have actually had fairly easy pregnancies in their 40s. And I don't know why that is. It might be because you're like emotionally mature. And just kind of like matter of fact. Well, most of the people that I know that have had pregnancies in their 40s, they've also had quite a few children. So that might have something to do with it. But I really think that having babies in your 40s is really a blessing. There might be some tricks and stuff to it as far as like miscarriage, because miscarriage rates are higher as you get older. And that type of stuff. But yeah, so if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Or if you've had any babies after 40 and there's something that I didn't say or something that you're thinking about, write that in the comments below, because I love reading the comments and I know other people like reading other people's comments as well. I know this is kind of like an off, I don't know, maybe like an off-topic type video, because I usually don't do stuff like this, but I think it's kind of important and somebody asked me to do it. So yeah, kind of exciting. All right, you guys have a blessed day.